going to be laying two wreaths today. This is Paul. Paul is the great-grandson of Fred Billing, the man we commemorated back in 2016. He's going to be laying a wreath beneath his great-grandfather's name, which is inscribed here, but it's also on behalf of Alfred Reed, whose family he's also helping to represent today. Peter is going to be laying a wreath for his grandfather, or great-grandfather, Herbert Chandler, and he will have a little poem for us as well as he does so. For those of you that are interested, in 1919 the church had to decide how it was going to commemorate all of the men that had been lost in the war. There was already discussions happening about a village war memorial, which was eventually built down the far end of the High Street, but they wanted to have a parish war memorial. If you look around the church, you'll see two individual memorials, both to young officers, but the vicar wasn't very keen on that. He didn't want the church full of individual memorials because not everyone could afford to have them. Those were two sons from wealthy families. He wanted something that would be something that everyone can afford, and if they couldn't afford, then the church would pay the cost as well. A committee was assembled, and they decided that this old family chapel that belonged to the Buckle family would be converted into a memorial chapel. The organ was moved around. This was basically stripped down, and these panels were erected and carved. The inscription here is from King's College, which is quite a standard inscription we find on memorials now. And they also commissioned a memorial book, which is in that case just behind you over there. And it records the details of all of our local men who fought overseas. There's 450 names in that book. Black ink for the men that came home, red ink for the men that lost their lives. It records details of where they lived, what they did in the war, who they served with and where they went to. It's as well as an emotional treasure for the parish, it's also a very valuable resource in tracking down what happened to our men and where they went and what they did. Who made the decision as to what we did in here? Well, the committee was the great and the good, but also villagers were represented on that committee. And one lady who had been a diligent member of the Red Cross Working Party that used to meet up in the Banstead Institute, who had lost two of her sons to the war, including Robert Majuba Castleton, the youngest man from our village to die, aged 16 years and 2 months, was Louisa Castleton. She was one of the ordinary villagers chose to represent everybody on that committee. So there's a connection for, I think, almost all of us here today. So Paul and Peter, when you're ready, if I could ask you to lay your wreaths under the names. Okay.
James said, would I like to do a poem? And then we discussed it the other day. I don't think my grandfather probably was that educated and intimate, but he had sent his wife, my grandmother, a card from the ASC. And there's a little verse here which I think is appropriate for people like him. Though ours is not the kind of job that leads to much promotion, we try to do our little bit. And Tommy, I've a notion, won't want too much. If we can help, to give him good supply. If we don't always succeed, bet at least we try.
Children of Banstead say, for your tomorrow, we gave our today.